Thanks for joining me, and in this video today we're going to talk about how to bring out the subject better out of a background, particularly when the weather in some way does not cooperate. And for that, what I chose is this image here, which is in the Grand Canyon. And this formation actually has the wonderful name of Duck on a Rock. And I'll bring up a brush so you can see. So apparently everybody thinks that this thing is a duck. And if you do stare at it for a bit, actually, okay, yeah, I'll buy that. You can see kind of the bill here and the eyes and the front of it, and then the back coming down even has a little tail there. And this is the rock it's sitting on. So we want to bring that out to have the viewer's eye go there. But the other problem that we had this morning at the Grand Canyon was it was very windy. And you can see all the haze off in the distance. And when you get a lot of wind out in northern Arizona, generally it means things are going to be hazy because there's sand blowing all over the place. So what can we do to make this a better photograph and to highlight our duck a little bit? In fact, let's get rid of that for now. Okay, so first thing, let's just do some basic edits to the entire image. What's the problem? Well, the highlights are a little too bright. Let's bring those down. Bring the highlights down. We'll open up the shadows, so we're going to have to darken the background. Let's go ahead and add some clarity, and let's add some dehaze because it's really going to need it. Yeah, you can see that's helped a little bit. The color temperature is off a little bit as well, and the saturation's way down. So let's bring the saturation back up, and okay, now things are starting to look better. When you consider that we started there and already we're here, that's good. But what we need to do first is at least bring some of the life back to the Grand Canyon behind it. And to do that, I'm going to use a brush. So we come up to our editing panel, our masking panel, and choose brush. And for the past years, brush has been K. So if you can remember K, it just saves you the trouble of going through these menus. If I just hit the K key, and I'm going to give myself a nice big brush. And I want to make sure that auto mask is on so that it will only select the things that are underneath that little plus sign. So I can come right up to the edge and notice that other than some of the shadows it picked up, it's not touching anything that it doesn't match what's under the middle. So you can see as I come up near the horizon, it's getting the background, but it is not hitting the foreground stuff. So let me just come around in here. Yeah, I'm going to fine tune it a little bit, picking up some things I don't want, and I'm missing some things that I do want. So to get rid of the things I don't want, I'm going to make the brush a little bit smaller. You can do it with the size here, or you can do it with your mouse. And I'm going to hold down the Alt key, which changes it to a minus. Notice there's a minus in the middle of our circle now. I still have auto mask on. So now I'm just going to go over the formation up here and get rid of the stuff that I don't want there. That one can stay. Actually, I'm going to take it out of here as well. Now, for the background, there's some spots that got missed. Some of the little faces of the canyon that are getting a little more light. So what I'm going to do is turn off auto mask so that just everything I go over will get selected. So that's looking pretty good. So I have a pretty good selection. Let's get the background a little more there. And of course, I picked up a little tip there. All right, so we got rid of that. So now we have basically just the background canyon selected. What does it need? Well, let's add some contrast to it. It's awesome contrast. The color temperature is off. It's way too blue for me. So let's add yellow to it. Obviously, if it's blue. Now it's starting to look like the Grand Canyon. That looks a lot better. In fact, I'm even going to add a little bit of red. I'm going to add a little more contrast, but you know what? I think we're going to work locally because it's already pretty dark down here. Let's go ahead and add a little bit to the black. So I'm going to bring the black slider down just a little. And now I'm going to hit K again, which is going to start us all over. So now, I forgot to put auto mask on. Let's go back to auto mask. Let's hit K. Turn auto mask on. I want to get some of these deep shadows. I want to darken them up a little bit. These in particular. The ones that are up, that are further in the back and that are closer to the top of the canyon, we're going to leave alone because they would be getting lighter. I think just that grouping right there. Let's add some contrast to that. I'm going to bring the exposure down just a little bit. And also notice that there are some sort of glowing parts around this. And for some reason, it chooses to do that. Even if I come in here and click to add, it still stays a little bit lighter, although we can try to get rid of some of it, but there's still a little bit that is going to look a little suspicious, like you edited the image. Horrors. So what I'm going to do is hit K one more time and start a new brush, and I just want to get these areas deep into the formation right next to this to darken just those up a little bit, because it's making it look like there's a bit of a glow, and there really isn't. So let's turn the exposure down just on there, and you can see now we've kind of got rid of that glow. I'm just looking at it, and I want to match it to the areas that are surrounding it, and I think the canyon background's looking pretty good. Again, there's where we started. I just hit the backslash key on my keyboard. There's where we started. That's looking a heck of a lot better. Now the sky was kind of bland this morning, so I'm going to leave that alone. But I want to bring your eye a little bit more to the duck. So let's get K again. We're going to make a little small brush, and we're going to light paint a little bit on here. And this area right here, and you can see some of these areas, because of the light and because of the rock that is actually comprising this thing, have a slightly different color to them. They're a little bit yellow, a little bit red. So we're going to add some more color to it. We're going to add a little bit more yellow and a little bit more red, or magenta in this case. Now it's starting to show up a little bit better. And I think the head of the duck is a little bit too dark. So again, K one more time. We're going to paint on top of the duck there. Let's bring the exposure up to lighten up those shadows. And again, it's going to separate out. And I want to do the same thing for the side, but not quite that strong. So I'm going to bring the flow down to about 70%. You can see that's one of the options here. And I'm going to just continue adding to that. And you can see it's just very slightly opening up these shadows here. Just the places that have gone a little bit too dark. And I guess that's considered the eye of the duck. And there's even a little tree growing on there. And I think that's looking pretty good. We're going to do a little bit more light painting. Let's take a look at the composition. I like the kind of, the duck is looking over the canyon. I'm fine with that. My only concern is this area right here in the bottom left-hand corner is very bright. And it's going to take your eye away from the rest of the image. So let's create another mask. I'm going to go up here, click on New Mask, and we're going to do a linear gradient, which is the M key. And I'm going to drag in the lower left corner, and I'm going to pull it up about like this. That's the area I want to darken a little bit. So I'm going to bring the highlights down and bring the exposure down a little bit. And I find that if I look elsewhere, I'm actually looking up in here. If I look elsewhere when I'm bringing the exposure down, when I can just barely see it dropping down in brightness a little bit, that's a good thing. So let's hit enter on that. That's looking good. I don't really think I have a heck of a lot more I want to do to this image. Do I want to take a little off the right? Maybe, maybe not. I think maybe a little off the bottom. Let's hit the R key, which is our crop tool. I'm going to bring it up a little bit from the bottom. Oh, we have our constraint on. Let's put that back. I just clicked on the lock to fix that. By doing some cropping, it will make the formation bigger in the image. So I'm thinking that from the bottom and maybe about to there on the right. Maybe a little more on the bottom. And do we need all that sky? We'll bring that down a little bit too and hit enter. Two more things I want to do. First, I'm going to add a vignette. So I'm going to come down to Effects, and I'm going to add my standard -12 highlight vignette, or post-crop vignette. Now I'm going to do one last thing to help, again, the viewer get to the formation, and that is using Shift-M. Shift-M is a radial gradient instead of a linear. So as I click and drag, I get this radial shape. I'm going to move it down to here. I'm going to follow the sun. So I'm going to angle it from the front of the formation up to our duck. And I'm going to bring up the exposure a bit. Let's just bring that up just a little bit. Now these highlights here are getting a little bright. Hold on, stay tuned on it. We're going to bring that down separately. I'm going to click on the mask and tell it to subtract. And we're going to subtract with a brush. And I'm just going to subtract the stuff we did right here. It's still okay for it to be light, but I don't want it to be brighter than everything else. And you know what? I think we're done. I'm going to click on here and hit Command apostrophe, which will create a virtual copy for us. And I'm going to reset the first one to where we started. So here's our starting point, and you'll get to see how dramatic the difference is. Let's look at it full screen. So here's the raw file of the duck on a rock. If you look closely, yeah, you can see. You can even zoom in. There's the duck on a rock. Looks kind of like a mechanical duck, but neither here nor there. So there's the original raw file. And with our edits we just did, we converted this interesting composition, but completely lacking in color, from there to there. And now it looks like a glorious shot. You can see the Grand Canyon off in the distance, the duck looking over top of it, the colors are all back, and it just looks great. And that was entirely done in Lightroom. So I hope you found that interesting. I hope you found it useful. When you look at an image, make sure that the viewer's eye is going to where you want. And since this is called Duck on a Rock, if you didn't tell them that in the name, they might not look up here, and they're just going to look at this weird rock over the Grand Canyon. So Duck on a Rock for you from the Grand Canyon on a lovely sunrise in November. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you again online soon, and have a great week. Bye-bye.